Everyone, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We are very excited to have you all. It's a beautiful day here on the Ronaldo campus and hope it is where you are as well. So a couple of housekeeping things as we get started here this afternoon. I'm Anthony Tang, graduated from Wake Forest in 2011 and have the opportunity to serve the university here in University Advancement. And there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So no question is too small. If you have any questions throughout this afternoon and evening's panel, please feel free to include those. We will either answer them live or someone will be able to get to those as well. I am pleased to introduce to you this evening Andy Chan, who is our Vice President for Career Readiness and Engagement, serving on the President's Cabinet, which is a little bit unusual in higher education and does demonstrate Wake Forest's high level of commitment to the personal and career development of our students. Overseeing personal and career development teams for students and alumni in the college and the business school, and as well as our employer relations team. Andy oversees our pre-college programs, which are designed for high school students in the Winston-Salem, Charlotte areas, and also online. A couple other key notes about the Office of Personal and Career Development. The OPCD has won a major industry awards each year for the past 4 years. 98% of the graduating class in the class of 2021 it was employed or in graduate school within 6 months of graduation, expecting the similar results for the class of 2022 and also 23. And as we move forward too, Andy, right, 2024, 25, and 26 as well. You may know Andy from his higher education TED Talk, which is entitled Career Services Must Die. He's also been working in the career and higher education sector for the past 25 years as the CEO of an ed tech startup and running career services at Stanford's business school, prior to coming to build our award-winning team here at Wake Forest 13 years ago. Without further ado, Andy.
Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate the very kind introduction. And it's great to see you all out there, although I guess I can't technically see you, but I'm glad that you're out there to join us. We know that there are hundreds of Wake Forest family members who are interested in hearing about what's it like in terms of internships, thinking about grad school if your child might be a sophomore or a junior. And so we're very excited to share a bit of the news with you. And joining me right now is a couple of my senior leaders. And the first one, as you can see in the video, is Mercy Iadiel. Mercy and I have worked together for a long time. We used to work together at Stanford Business School. And then I came to Wake Forest and I hoped and prayed Mercy would come join me, and here she is. So it's all worked out very well. We've worked together now for a decade at Wake Forest. Mercy actually oversees all of the career coaches in the business school. She's on the executive team of the dean of the business school. And then she also oversees our employer relations function, which provides basically support for all the recruiters who want to work, recruiters in grad schools who want to actually find talent, whether it be at the business school or for the university at large. So it's a really great team. It's one that, you know, all the employers and grad schools who work with really have high regard for the services that we provide. They really say it's more fun and really smooth to recruit at Wake Forest than a lot of other places in the country. And so Mercy oversees that group. On top of that, she takes care of our sort of chief corporate partnerships. So when we do big partnerships with universities, or excuse me, with corporations where they might be interested in doing special programs, especially related to diversity and inclusion or related to ESG type opportunities, Mercy's involved with that too. But we're here to talk about internships. And so we're going to start with the first question. Mercy, tell us a little bit about the state of the internship market right now and how it might be different from what we've seen in the past.
Well, happy to. And thanks for inviting me to join you on this conversation, Andy. It's always an honor to be representing our team and also to be with our parents. Lots of love for our parents, for sure. So you asked an important question, which I'm happy to say the employment market right now is very strong for college students, undergraduate and at the graduate level for the class of 2023. Well, that's evidenced by a couple of factors. One, we look at how many employers are actually connected to Wake Forest in terms of recruiting. And right now, parents, we have over 34,000 employers who are connected with Wake Forest and say, we want to consider your students for our jobs and internships. Another key indicator that we look at is actually how many opportunities are in the system. So right now we have over 35,000 jobs and internships in the system. And to get to Andy's direct question, how many internships are actually out there right now? We're still a little bit early. A lot of the internships start to kick in January, but right now we have 5,000 internships posted in our system. And that is about a 21% increase over last year. So we're super excited. The market's strong. Don't listen to your babies when they tell you otherwise. We've got opportunities in our system for sure.
Great. Well, there are definitely opportunities. We will get to why it can be hard in a second, but there are some particular industries probably where things are hotter than others. Can you describe where you're seeing the most, most interest from the marketplace with respect to hiring on the industry, and maybe even talk about the job function part too?
Yes, absolutely. So right now what we're seeing is that healthcare, a lot of nonprofit roles, IT, manufacturing, education, of course, financial services really rise to the top in terms of number of opportunities. And the thing that we like for parents and also our students to think about is, while industry is important, we want to encourage folks to really think about job functions. So as an example, if you think about IT or data analytics or marketing, these are functions that sit across a wide range of industries. And so we really like to think about those job categories. If you think about data analytics, education and teaching, engineering, consulting, sales, IT are all leading the way right now.
Wow, it sounds like there's just tons of opportunity all across the board in a lot of different kinds of areas. In terms of organizations, sometimes I think we often get accused in our office as, there's only opportunities for business students or students interested in business. Can you give a little bit of shed a little bit of light on that? Is that really the case? Or, what are the kinds of organizations that are actually interested in recruiting our students?
Great question. And I just really want to emphasize this point tonight. If you don't remember anything else, please remember this, that the employers who hire at Wake Forest are really looking across our university talent. There's actually very few employers who only want to hire certain types of students. And that usually falls in accounting, finance, some of the data analytics roles, although those are more like the data science level roles. But anything outside of that, employers are generally very open to considering students from all backgrounds and majors, because they're really looking to diversify their talent pools and bringing new and innovative ways of thinking about solving some really challenging business problems that we have. So I would say, please be encouraged by the fact that no one employer is coming to only seek business school students. And listen, I represent the business school also. And I think it's very encouraging, because I think a rising tide in this case lifts all boats. So if we only have one set of students to offer, that's not going to be as attractive to our employers. Let me give you just some examples of some employers who are actually hiring Wake Forest students. So these are just general examples. We have thousands that hire our students. General Mills, Procter & Gamble, Newell Brands, Deloitte, PepsiCo, Barclays, McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group. I mean, there's the Peace Corps. There's so many different kinds of organizations that represent different industries and functions. And again, what I want you all to hear is that Wake Forest is considered top talent to recruit from, and they're all very competitive trying to get to our students. And we're very proud of that and want to continue with that. Let me also say, our parents play a big role in ensuring that we can have these kinds of really strong brands recruiting at Wake Forest. So if you're out there, I'm imagining that many of you have influence to help us forge new relationships for our students. So please let us know. And we'd love to start new recruiting relationships with those organizations.
Great. Thanks, Mercy. There's a couple areas that students tend to really be interested in, oftentimes things like art, sports, fashion, entertainment. And because they're very popular, they're really difficult to get. Can you talk a little bit about how those types of organizations in those industries do recruiting? Mainly because I think sometimes students feel like, oh, you didn't bring Nike or you didn't bring Lululemon to campus, so you're not doing your job. And the reality is that those companies are a bit different. And can you talk a little bit about that and how they recruit?
Absolutely. Well, a couple of things on that. One is when you look at these type of industries, whether it's art, sports, fashion, entertainment, these industries typically do not hire in large quantities. They don't have, the rotational programs or the analyst cohorts that typically at a consulting or financial services firms you might have, or even some of the bigger companies. And so what the recruiting landscape really looks like for these organizations, and might I also add, the jobs in this space are hyper competitive. And so employers don't actually have to promote in a lot of cases. So it really is about teaching our students how to network and how to really leverage their Wake Forest network in particular, and the parents network as well. But let me give you some examples of organizations that do recruit and share their opportunities with us, but we're always actively promoting talent to the organizations that are in our network around student interest in this space and how we can build a networking relationship, not necessarily a recruiting relationship, because they may not have a job today, but we also always want to be adding these folks into our network. So there's organizations like Wolf Trap for the performing arts, or the Country Music Hall of Fame. I'm from Nashville, love that, which posts with us, and they have really competitive opportunities in marketing, in memberships, all kinds of great career opportunities. We also have organizations like the Minnesota Twins that recently has posted about 37 new opportunities with us. And then finally, Madison Square Gardens, the complex, they have about 15 internships opportunities that are posted, ranging from marketing, production, sales, etc. So they are out there. The challenge is because students see all these other companies coming to campus, they misunderstand the process. The other thing I just want to quickly say is that these organizations are more likely hiring just in time. And so students really need to keep their eyes peeled in the, I would say, the March through graduation time period. Yeah, for
That's
sure.
great. That's good to be aware of. I do think sometimes we really try to tell students apply to as many different kinds of opportunities because of the fact that that it's so competitive to get to those types of organizations, and also that the top brands get all the attention. So if you find some
Right.
other brand that's not quite as known, you might actually have better odds of getting something.
True, very true.
So one of the things that we really promote very heavily is the use of Handshake. And can you talk a little bit with the parents to help them understand how does Handshake work and why it's so important?
Handshake is an incredibly powerful, robust system that the majority of institutions right now are using. And, their whole motto is how to democratize this process. So regardless of major or background, as a student at a lot of these institutions, you have an opportunity to apply to thousands, literally thousands of competitive opportunities. Now, that's overwhelming for our students. It's quite honestly overwhelming for our teams. How do we prioritize? How do we make sure that we're really going after the most competitive opportunities for our students? So Handshake is also a very smart system. And while it does manage all of our recruiting efforts, it also manages all of our career education programs and events and our career coaching appointments. And so we like for students to fill out their Handshake profile. That is such a top priority. I can't emphasize it, enough. And the reason why is because it really becomes the gateway to how you as a student start learning about opportunities that are available at the university, opportunities that are available in the market, et cetera. And so it also gives us a way to tailor communication. So if you tell us what your career preferences are, some students may not know, but even things that they're, remotely interested in, and talk to us about the geography, key skills that you might have already built by now. These are all very important factors to indicate, because the system can then customize and tailor opportunities for students based on those preferences. So a lot of students, we constantly are trying to get them to fill out the complete profile. All of our students are like one and done. Okay, I did it 2 years ago. Do I need to do it again? Yeah, you probably need to look at it monthly, if not quarterly, just to make sure it's up to date. So that is a very important part in getting the right opportunity sent your way.
Yeah, another couple things that I think about are you can save a job search, and so then the
Yes.
system will push opportunities to you based on what you said you're interested in. You can follow companies and jobs, and same thing, the system will start pushing you things like that. There's some companies who they're searching in the system, and if they see things on your resume that fit their profile, they'll actually send messages directly to students to engage.
Absolutely.
And then there's a bunch of events that both same things that we have on, but also things that companies are doing like on their own within the system that students can get access to. I know we run like virtual career fairs with other schools. For example, we're doing an upcoming virtual grad school career fair on
Right.
November 2nd. And that
Right.
enables students to be able to get access to that type of career fair, where we partner with all schools all over North Carolina to attract hundreds of grad schools to be interested in giving their information to us. So the only way you can get access to that is by being on Handshake. So I think helping students understand like it is a huge, powerful gateway to get into like all the opportunities and the information that we have.
Exactly. That's great. Yeah.
One last question I have for you is when you think about this aspect of virtual recruiting, there's part of it which is I have to interview virtually. Like, is that happening a lot? And also, how do you optimize for that? And then the other side is the going and doing virtual like internships, the value of doing that versus not. Like, what's your general sense of how to think about that?
Yeah. Well, virtual recruiting is not going to go away. And a large part of that is because companies can efficiently, or organizations can efficiently pre-screen and qualify candidates. And so that's going to become more and more a part of the first pass of consideration into an organization. Many organizations are using pre-recorded interview processes, things like Spark Hire, where you respond to a set of questions. And I'll be very upfront. Virtual recruiting is a different skill than when you're interviewing in person, and a large part because it's a different energy. You don't always get the same cues and nonverbals and all that stuff that really make the interview experience really rich. So we have different resources that we provide to students to help them feel more confident in the virtual space. My colleague Patrick is going to share a link of the tips that we offer to students that we've put together from our coaches and our employers. Patrick's put that out here. And the other thing I will say is we've also got a tool called Interview Stream. And parents, I really wish you would encourage your students to use this, because it is such a good practice session. Let's say the coach's, schedule is completely filled up and I've got an interview tomorrow. What do I do? Well, use Interview Stream, and that will give you a pre-recorded way to practice. And that is the key to virtual interviewing. Now, Andy, you also asked a question about what's it like to work virtually. Well, the data is out there. I think for OGs like myself, we don't mind working a little bit more virtually. Our students really like to work in person, but they like some degrees of flexibility. And I think that for a younger student coming in, a younger professional, it is important for their development to have access to a community, to get the mentoring relationships. And it's a big part of how they socialize. And so companies are paying attention. They want to be able to offer the flexibility. And they're starting to do some creative things where they can't offer the person maybe to come to their space, like doing regional kinds of events or local kinds of things that they sponsor. So I think it's important for students to get that in-person experience balanced with some flexibility with virtual because of the global market that we're in. I don't think that virtual is going away.
Right. I just realized there was one other question that we've been asked a few times related to just the engineering program.
Okay.
And one of the questions, it's sort of a new program. People are wondering, how are those students faring in the marketplace? And, what do we do to help ensure that those students have great opportunities? Could you speak to that?
Absolutely. Well, first, let me just speak to the amazing partnership we have with Olga, who is the chair of the engineering department. Without that partnership, I think this would be really challenging because it's a new program, a younger program, and we're not producing high volume of graduates that you might see at potentially other schools. From our perspective, what we do to support the engineering students, there's really 4 key things that we do. One is we really look at our direct outreach and communication to all employers. So we have a way in our system where we can identify employers who are primarily interested in engineering graduates. And so we market to those employers directly and share information about our engineering program. Olga will be the first to tell you, we are training for a whole student engineering experience, not specializing necessarily in one area, but really giving them the broader skill set to make them more competitive, and employers are responding favorably to that. The other thing that we do, second thing that we do is we have one-on-one employer outreach calls that take place over the summer months, and we reach out to all of our managed accounts, which are over 500, and we promote the engineering program as well as other programs too, but it gives us an opportunity to really talk with the organization about their talent strategy. And hey, did you know that Wake Forest has a new engineering program as well? The other big thing I think we're doing is partnerships with other schools. So an example of that is we partner with NC State, that has very large engineering program, well known, and they've invited us to participate in their career fairs. And so we do participate in those fairs. Our students have access, and that generally happens in the fall. The final thing I'll say is that we're working with Olga right now to look at their capstone projects and how we can build the relationship with employers to sponsor these capstone projects, which really gives important experiential learning opportunities for our engineering students. So
Great.
I would say that's
Thanks.
what we're primarily doing. Yeah.
Thanks, Mercy. I know that just these last couple of years, there's the outcomes, first destination rates for the engineering students are probably among all the students on the very, very high end, almost 100% by graduation. It's pretty incredible how well they do. It's very diverse. They don't all go to engineering. Some go into business, some go into finance, some go into research. It's like a wide range of things, to the point you made earlier about the idea that Olga in particular and their programs designed to create a really well-rounded professional engineer that is embedded in a liberal arts thinking. So it gives them a lot of capabilities and potential directions.
And just to follow up on that point, Andy, the internship is critical, right? Which is why we're talking about this tonight, because that is the pathway to competitive full-time jobs.
Great. I'm going to ask you to step into the background and allow Heidi to come forward, and I can talk to her a little bit about her perspective with respect to how we coach and educate our students. So Heidi Robinson is our Associate Vice President and our Professor of Practice, who has created and designed and teaches and leads a set of teachers in all of our college to career courses, and also oversees all of our coaches who work with the students, particularly in the college, from the day they arrive all the way through graduation. And that, only about 250 of them end up going to the business school. So all of those others who actually end up staying with us, the 49,000 or so, 4,900, should I say, who are actually with us, your team actually oversees. So Heidi, when we think about internships in general, what would you say students who are sophomores and juniors should be doing right now in terms of getting into the process, getting prepared, all that type of stuff?
Andy, first, I love being here to be able to speak to our parents. So thank you for the invitation and to be able to speak to this. We're with students all the time. And so to be able to help parents help their students is very important to us. I would think the first thing that I want students to think about, and parents can help with this, is for students to think broadly about the kinds of experiences that will be valuable for them. Sometimes students may get locked into a mindset that there's just one dream internship that's out there, or they may be thinking that there has to be a 12-week kind of an experience that they have. And instead, we want them to begin to think flexibly, to begin to think about a variety of different opportunities that might be helpful for them, and then to get clear about their goals, to think about the kinds of things or job functions that they would be interested in performing, and then the industries and some of the skills that they have that are valuable to employers. Students often think, particularly in that sophomore year, that they don't have the skills or experiences that are valuable to employers. And what I would encourage parents to do is to look at something called NACE, N-A-C-E, the National Association of Colleges and Employers list of the valuable skills that they have identified. Because what happens for students is they begin to think about those skills that they have from their Wake Forest experience in a different light. And so thinking about the kinds of things they would like to do, the job functions, the industries, and then the skills that they have that they would like to use in an internship is very important. Then I would encourage them to start thinking about having conversations. First, I want to just underscore that we have a robust and enthusiastic alumni group. And what they say sometimes when they come back for homecoming is, why haven't students contacted me? I want to help them right now. And so one of our best practices that we can encourage our students to do is to begin leaning into that network, going ahead and looking in LinkedIn on our Wake Forest alumni pages, but also our sites, in our special Wake Forest groups, to begin to see who are the people and places that I might start to have a conversation with about opportunities that they see or advice they might have. We also say that students should be having those conversations with friends and family. We want to help them, and we know that their friends and family do as well. So having curiosity conversations, asking questions, getting advice about where they can begin finding experience now. And then we tell them we're not applying for 3 to 5 different kinds of internships. We are going to encourage students to apply to 40 to 50 opportunities. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to be enthusiastic about all 50 of them, but we want them to apply to that many because it is indeed a numbers game. And we want students to go ahead and have experience interviewing. They may get 20 interview requests, perhaps the video request Mercy referenced, and we want them to get practice at that, whether it is their most preferred internship opportunity, or if it's not. Either way, getting that interview experience is very important as we move into from internship search into job or grad school search. Finally, I would go ahead and just add, as mentioned, our students have opportunities to join all of our alumni groups and some very specialized groups on LinkedIn. The groups on LinkedIn that are related to Wake Forest give our students access to those different alumni in different areas. We teach students how to sort by geography, by industry, and by job function to find alumni in places and spaces where they are curious. And then I suppose the last thing I would say is that we want students exploring options that they may not yet be aware are possible. And some of those are project-based, and they are on different sites, one Parker Dewey and the other Catch a Fire. These are project-based sites where students can actually go ahead and get projects or micro internships. Students say, well, does that count if it's not 12 weeks? It absolutely counts. Parker Dewey has paid opportunities and projects that students can apply for and finish and complete in a range of times from 2 weeks to 5 weeks. And then Catch a Fire is actually for nonprofits. And the same thing. They have micro internships and projects that students can be doing, and those count as professional experiences and internship experience that matters for them and for their growth. Finally, we have access to something called Forage. And Forage is, again, project-based, and students can take on a project that might be in consulting. It might be in data analytics. It's in something where they are going to learn some skills and get experience. And then what Forage promises is that their project will be evaluated by industry experts, which is another way for our students to go ahead, get professional experience, but also get their foot in the door in industries and also in companies that may be interesting to them.
Heidi, that was a huge amount of information right there. And a couple of things that come to mind for me is a way to sort of get started. And what I think about, so one would be the career courses are a pretty amazing way to learn all that and do all that and get credit for it. I think of Career Corps as being another way where students can do it on their own and walk through all the steps you just mentioned, but do it in an online sort of self-guided form. And then I think they could just come to the office and either make an appointment or come to office hours. Can you talk through each of those different ways so that if a parent out there couldn't actually write everything you just said down and tell their student to do it, but actually had to come to see someone to help them through it, how they could do that?
Thank you. One of the first things that I think about, Andy, is how you get the student through the door. And I think one of the most important things for any student to know is that you don't have to have it all together in order to walk through our door. So I think that is probably the first step, is going ahead and creating some contact and having that student come in. Second, we have resume drop-in hours that are Monday through Thursday, 1:30 to 4:30. Students can come in when it's convenient for them to begin that process of developing their personal brand and getting that resume together, which is a great first step as they begin the internship search. Second, we have coaching drop-in hours, 3:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday. And students can come on in with quick questions. They can come on in and get started, meet some coaches, very casual, and a way for them to go ahead and kind of get an introduction to the office. And then I have office hours every Thursday from 3:30 to 5, and students just drop in. Some actually think of that as their accountability time with themselves and with their own career progress or process. And we go ahead and we help them. We work on things from resume to LinkedIn profile, but it's, again, a very casual thing. Lots of students are in there, and it ends up being a social, but also an educational event. So those are the things I would say. And sometimes students don't know that they actually have a coach assigned to them in the OPCD. So once a student declares, so this is to our junior parents, once your child declared their major, they actually have a coach that is assigned to that major. Now, they don't have to see that coach, but they have a coach that is specific to politics and international affairs, to econ, to psych, to English. And we want them to know that there's someone who is looking for them and looking for opportunities for them.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. That was really very clear. I'm observing some of the questions that are being asked in the Q&A. One of them is either one, students who are overseas right now, what can we be doing to support them and help them be in the process? That's sort of one. And then I think there's a second one, which is some students may have an interest in doing an internship while they're overseas. That's sort of a different spin, but maybe a sophomore thinking about next year traveling. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that whole aspect of how do we help students when they're overseas, and then how do we help students think about if they can get an internship connected to being overseas.
So I'm going to start with what kind of support do we have? All the support that we would have if a student was here on the Ronalda campus, we have that for our students when they are abroad. It is virtual, but we have been meeting with many of our students who are studying abroad and helping them prepare with their resume, helping them prepare for virtual interviews. So all of those different appointments that a student might have if they were in Barcelona, they are available here too during that time. So we want our students to know who are studying abroad that we are here for them in every way that we would be if they walked through our doors here in Ronalda 230. I would say to the international, the possibility of doing an internship internationally, there are programs, and I would refer those parents and those students also to see the variety of those kinds of international internships with our friends down in GPS. So they are interested in going ahead and helping students identify different kinds of internship opportunities. We've had students who have had an internship in London during the summer. We've had students who have been in Salamanca and they've been shadowing in hospitals. So I think that there are some different ways that students may or may not yet know that they can actually be engaged in that process internationally.
Great. Thank you, Heidi. One last question that comes to mind. There are a lot of others, but we have time for this one. I'm sure we'll answer some in your conversation with the students. The question is, some of our students might be thinking of graduate school as an option, and they're wondering, how does our office help those students? And then also, if not us, who should they go to ask questions about thinking about graduate school?
I would want those students in our office. We work on personal statements. We work on creating plans for grad school with students starting as early as their sophomore year. For students who are interested in the sciences, and they may be pre-vet, they may be pre-dent, they may be pre-med, any of the health related careers, we have a coach who is assigned to do just those kinds of things and help those folks through that process. And there's something called the Health Professions Committee. We work very closely with the faculty members who also support the professional development and growth toward graduate school for all of our students. So we want our students heading toward grad school to know that all of the things that they need can be found right here. And in fact, there's a part of our website where students can begin to get some ideas about graduate school and look at some of the resources that we have there as well.
Great. Well, Heidi, I'm going to pass the baton to you and let you have a great conversation with our students about their experiences.
Great. Thank you. I am very excited to introduce you to three of our students, and Allie and Olivia and Ashani. Welcome and thank you so much for being here with us. I would love first to have you unmute and then introduce yourself, your year, and kind of where you are in this internship process. Allie, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. So I'm Allie Wilkinson. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in communication, and I am in the process of looking for an internship for next summer. But I currently have an internship during the school year. It is virtual, but I'm working for a startup e-commerce brand, and I'm doing their executive strategy and marketing ops internship for this semester.
So congratulations on that, Allie. And I love that you're in the hunt. We're going to be asking about some of your strategies here in just a moment. Bouncing over to our other sophomore, Olivia. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and then a little bit about where you are in the internship hunt?
Hi, I'm Olivia Goldstuck. I'm a sophomore majoring in psychology, and I am planning on working virtually this summer for a nonprofit, the Borgen Project, that's kind of main goal is to fight global poverty.
Yes, and as I mentioned with Allie, I'm excited to hear about your process and how all of these things have gone. And then Ashani, you'll introduce yourself and then tell us about your internship search.
Hello, I'm Ashani Davis. I'm a junior double majoring in history and sociology, and next summer I'll be interning at Morgan Stanley in New York in their legal and compliance division.
Thank you, Ashani. And as I said, I'm excited to hear the stories of how you all have thought about your internship search and then the advice that you might have for others. So as we sort of get started, I think what I'd like to do is start first with our sophomores. Allie, a lot of students don't think about the idea that an internship could also take place during the school year. Will you speak a little bit about that and how you landed it, kind of your best practices?
Yeah, so I actually didn't know it existed either, but it was helpful actually with all these conversations with Handshake. I found it through Handshake. I was familiar with the startup company, but I didn't know that there was such opportunities. What's awesome about Wake Forest is that you can actually get credit for your internship. And so once you declare a major, you could get that credit instead of taking a course towards your major. And so it is virtual. It definitely does take take a little bit of a balancing act to do. I know all of you parents know that it's definitely a hard school load, but also, working at the same time. But it's a great opportunity. So I feel like I'm gaining a lot of skills through this internship that maybe I didn't last summer. And it really gives great opportunity to, make your resume a little bit stronger while, taking your courses as well.
If you're going to give 3 best practices to help land an internship during the school year, what would you say?
I would say number 1, definitely don't be picky. Do something you're interested in. I love my internship, but just keep applying to jobs. And I think that keeping a spreadsheet is really helpful. Professor Robinson taught me that in her class, but really keeping track of what you're interested in. I think the second for me, it is really important to network. Like Professor Robinson said, going through LinkedIn and searching blank company and Wake Forest, or, this space in Wake Forest, I have had more people say yes than say no of reaching out. Conducting, informational interviews are also really important into finding that process. And, the amount of times I've gotten off of a call saying, I just put in your reference, like, I can't wait to hear back, let me know. And really following up on the process is really helpful. I think the third is, I don't know. I think those are my 2 big pieces. Yeah.
I would say, if I was going to suggest one or think of one that you have been very successful doing, it's that you have been a regular in office hours.
Yes, that would be it. Yeah. Don't be afraid of the OPCD. I walked in not having a resume, not having anything. Tell your child, if there's one thing that you walk away from, go to the OPCD. They are they changed my thought about career, what I wanted to do, and they really teach you how to market yourself into any career.
Thank you, Allie. I'm excited that you're in the hunt now for summer. You're going to be snapped up soon. I know where you are in the hunt. Thank you. I'm going to move over to our other sophomore, Olivia. And Olivia, I would ask some of the same questions of you. You have already landed for the summer. Could you tell us a little bit about your process and what you would recommend to others?
Yes. So my process started actually in part because of Allie. She took Professor Robinson's class last year, and all of a sudden she had a LinkedIn, she had a handshake, she had a resume, and she liked to rub it in my face a little bit. So
we're a little competitive.
So I said, I'm signing up for the class, and signed up for the class, didn't have anything, walked in, resume done, LinkedIn, 500 connections, stole all of Allie's connections, of course, but 500 connections, handshake, completely done. And what I did from there, well, also side note, important to note, I came into the class thinking I knew exactly what I wanted to do. So I told Professor Robinson, I'm going to be a counseling psychologist. We are only looking at those options for internships, that or social work. I don't want anything else. And that's what I'm going to do. So we started going through the class, and I go to the career fair, and Professor Robinson was kind of nudging me to go to consulting firms, I was like, no, this is not for me. I'm into social work. I'm into whatever. So I went there, started talking to quite possibly every single company, and realized that my future was not necessarily set in stone. And I actually, needed to broaden my horizons a little bit. So I narrowed it down. I was like, okay, I'm going to look into, psychology, maybe human resources, but also sales, marketing, things like that. And through LinkedIn and Handshake, I applied to maybe 20-ish internships, because you just submit. Sometimes there's a cover letter, sometimes there isn't. If there's not, press the button, submit. And then through that, got an interview for the Borgen Project, which I thought combined what I wanted to do, which was, make an impact in some way, in this case, through a nonprofit, but also that human resources side, which I thought was really interesting as well. So I interviewed with them, and then got the job in the following weeks.
Very exciting. If your advice for students who might still not yet either be in the OPCD or might be in the hunt, success tips you recommend?
The first thing is you have to start somewhere. So you just have to jump into it, because 2 months ago, I didn't have anything. And the only experience I'd had with work was working in the same restaurant I've worked in for, 4 years, which is great people skills, but it's not really anything beyond that. So I think the first step is don't be afraid. I just jumped right into it the second I walked into the OPCD, and get advice from the people around you. I'm going to say, I don't want to give Allie too much credit because it's going to go to her head a little bit, but I did have her help along the way because she had already taken the class. So that's my first piece of advice, is don't be afraid to jump right in. And then I think my second piece of advice would be keep your options open. I know Allie kind of talked about this, but I was so set in my ways and so sure that I knew exactly what I wanted to do, that it kind of closed me off from so many other things, because when you're in that narrow of a field, there's only so much that you can see on Handshake and on LinkedIn and all of those kind of sites where you're applying for internships. So I think be open to almost everything, anything that you could be interested in. And also know that just because, let's say after your sophomore year, you have an internship in one field, it doesn't mean that that's where you're going to be forever. I'm not, certain human resources is exactly what I want to do at a nonprofit, but I think that the only way I'll find out is if I take that leap and try it.
Well said, Olivia. Thank you very much. And I like that information. I like your information about sort of how you did it, what you did, and sort of the mindset that you kept, which was that flexible mindset and being open. So I will remember the text from you that said, I got it. Which brings me to Ashani Davis, our junior here. And Ashani, I will remember that text as well. But I would love for you to talk a little bit first about your process. In some ways, you started getting ready for this internship last year by going ahead and doing a lot of preparation. There'd be some people who would say that a liberal arts student couldn't get the kind of internship that you've landed. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about what your process has been and how you overcame that mindset that liberal arts students can't go do what you're about to do.
My internship process has been very tiring, to say the least. It started off with a one-on-one resume workshop with one of the career assistants, Helen. She's the best. I might be a little biased. And then she helped me critique my resume, add more information, and basically tell my story through my resume. And then I used it to just start applying for internships. I started my search for junior year about the end of August. That's when the internships that I was interested in, that's when those started being posted on Handshake and the company websites and LinkedIn. And then I started receiving a bunch of interview requests. And at first it was a bit overwhelming because I wasn't expecting like that many responses from high-end companies. But then I set up a mock interview with Mr. Patrick Sullivan. Also to note, might be one of the best, but might be biased. And he helped me with a mock interview. So we went through a couple practice questions, things that were likely to be asked during the interview. And not going to lie, about 5 to 8 of the questions that we went through were asked verbatim during my Morgan Stanley interview. And then I did a super day, waited about 2 weeks to hear back, and texted Miss Heidi the great news that I got my offer.
Ashani, if you were going to go ahead and if someone were to say liberal arts majors can't get your kind of an internship that you have, what would you say?
I would say that's not true. If anything, they value the fact that I'm a liberal arts major because it brings in a different perspective. A lot of people going into these huge companies are interested in finance and did a finance major. That's great and all, but everyone did a finance major. So I think it adds perspective and a bit of personality if you are willing to use your background and really show how you can be an addition to the company.
Nice. And now you know what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask the same question I asked Olivia and Allie. What advice would you give to juniors and to their parents, I would say, as they are helping their student?
First off, to juniors, please don't be discouraged. I know a lot of people are securing internships right now, but during my sophomore year, I didn't get an internship until like April, and my internship started in May. So just because everyone has opportunities lined up right now doesn't mean that you won't find something. People recruit later on in the year as well. So there's always something available. Don't confine yourself to one thing. I did that at first, but I would definitely recommend choosing a good 3 to 5 positions so that you don't overwhelm yourself and you can properly prepare for their interviews, and then apply to like 20 to 30 companies that are all doing that same exact position that you're looking for. That was very helpful and gave me a lot of practice going into my interviews. And also for the parents, I would say, please just be a listening ear and provide support, whether it's emotional, just words of encouragement. It's just very important to have someone who believes in you and is just there encouraging you along the way because it can be very stressful. So it's nice having someone in your corner just encouraging you and letting you know that something will work out in the end.
That's right. To hang in there, right? Okay. Ashani, Olivia, Allie, that is some of the best advice that parents could hear because it is coming directly from people who are walking in the same shoes as their children. And we just appreciate your time tonight and appreciate your very wise counsel. Thank you. And congratulations, everyone across the board here is doing lots of good things.
Thank you, Heidi, for that amazing discussion. Shani, Ali, Olivia, wow, couldn't have given better advice than what you did through both your experiences and your just honestly your wisdom. So I'm not sure we have a whole lot more to say, but I will allow Mercy and Heidi to give their final thoughts of what they might want to say to the parents who are on the line. So why don't we start with you, Mercy? What comes to mind? Any final thoughts you want to convey to the parents out there?
Yes, I would say really encourage your students to be open. You know, we talked a bit earlier about some of the name brand organizations that post with Wake Forest, and really get your students to also be thinking about skills that they can be developing, because they need to be able to speak to something that they've actually done or demonstrate their ability to do the thing that they're trying to do, whether that be marketing or data analytics, et cetera. And just experience and skills are really what you need to encourage your children to try to go after. So that's what I would say, and to be open.
Thanks, Mercy. How about you, Heidi? One final thought.
Help your child focus on experience, whether it is paid or it is unpaid. The summer experiences are meant to help your child build a foundation, to rule things in, keep things in the sandbox, to go ahead and discard certain ideas or opportunities that they thought they wanted, but encouraging them to go ahead and remember that summer experience and internships do not have to look like a formal corporate program. Get out there, get experiences, and let us help you do that.
Thank you. And I'll give you my final thought. I really liked what Ashani said about just being a listening ear and being encouraging. Students need to know that their parents and loved ones are in their corner and believe in the possibilities. I think one of the things that sometimes we can get caught up with is feeling like we have to get the perfect thing. And if we don't get the perfect thing, life is over. And like, why should I even try any further? And I had a parent a few weeks ago say he talked to his child who happened to be a first-year student about ABC. And A stood for any job, which is like any internship, any experience, as Heidi just said. B is better experience, better job, and C is career job. And you might get to start that sophomore, junior, senior year, or you might find it's junior, senior year, year one after that. It could be you start your first year you didn't, maybe during your junior year for different reasons, you weren't able to get like greatest internship. So you really got that first sort of any pretty good job, that first job coming out of school, and then you figured out your way. All those things, whatever it may be, we're there to be partners with you. We tell the students it's your path and our support. And we're here to individualize and try to help you individually figure out what makes sense for you, and to try not to compare to what everyone else is doing, because every student's got their own journey. We love them all, and we are here to help them. So we really hope that you've gotten a lot out of our conversation tonight, that you will send them our way, and just have a conversation with us. I think we take one step forward with every student. Once they get in motion, they can get all this work done. I know it's a lot of work and it can be sort of daunting, but as you can tell by the students who talked tonight, like they started from a place where they weren't sure about it, and now they're very confident about where they're headed. And we believe your child can find their way in the same way too. So I think that's all I have to say. I don't know if Anthony, you're going to come back, but otherwise, if you're not, I will say we're signing off, and thank you. We're going to have this recorded and will be made available back through, I think, probably the parents' family webpage eventually. So thank you for the time tonight. Anthony, you want to say any final words?
Just finally, thank you again. Thank you so much, Andy. Thank you, Heidi, Mercy, Ashani, Olivia, Allie, and Patrick for setting all this up. Kayla as well in the OPCD. Again, parents, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Please send your students to the OPCD, and we hope everybody has a great rest of the evening.
Go Deeks.